saying in tourism that food is culture, and food tourism is rising explosively around the world, and so is wine tourism. The industry is growing at a rate of at least 10% a year. You may have different statistics we'll hear today, depending on the studies, but the market is big. The market is huge, as a matter of fact. One of the studies shows that global wine tourism stands at a $50 billion a year. And one of the studies shows that in Europe, as important as wine tourism is, Europe is only benefiting about 20% of its potential. So the growth potential is significant, not just for Europe, but more importantly for Bosnia and Herzegovina, because for Bosnia and Herzegovina, while Europe may be putting in 20% of potential, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we're putting in a much smaller fraction. So the opportunity is great. About 80% of wine tourists live in big cities. So the fact that we're able to offer them not just a wine experience, but the whole agri-tourism experience, a rural experience, their opportunity to be out in the outdoors, experience something new, is something they're looking, people are looking forward to, especially in this post-COVID environment where you're looking at the outdoors, nature, adventure, food, all of these combinations. And this is what wine tourism can offer. There's much that the region of Herzegovina can offer, but and there are many regions around the world that have wine tourism, and our speakers will speak about a number of these destinations, but there's something special about Herzegovina. Take Bordeaux, take Champagne, take Cognac in France. They branded themselves because of the unique products that they have. You know, the land is special and gives a special product. And as a result, they were able to register these products and create a brand for themselves. How many countries in the world have platinum? And if we're able to capitalize on the uniqueness, we need unique selling propositions. It's not just wine and other things, or the Jilavka, for example. And that can help brand not just the wine itself, but brand the destination. And I looked at the one of the most recent reports by the World Economic Forum on destination branding. And it spoke about how Bosnia and Herzegovina country brand was propelled by the increased notoriety or more presence in the market of Herzegovina. So why are we doing this? Yes, there is a large economic potential for wine tourism itself for the destination, but there is a significant potential for Herzegovina to propel the entire country brand and to improve the image of the country itself, Bosnia and Herzegovina, as an interesting destination, differentiated by its nature assets, differentiated by its culinary experiences, by its adventure experiences. And all of these are typically the components of successful wine tourism. Wine tourists do not come just to drink wine. Wine, as a matter of fact, could be the driver, but in many cases, could be an add-on. So they're looking for adventure. They're looking for culinary experiences. They're looking for cultural experiences. And you do see many of the wineries also around the world that are offering wine tourism, that they themselves oftentimes either link to all of these experience providers, from adventure to hiking and food experiences and otherwise, or sometimes they sell it themselves. So there's quite significant potential to increase revenue to the wineries themselves, and as well as act as catalysts for development for the communities in which they are. And Herzegovina is a wonderful geography. I know that sometimes people like to make comparisons with Tuscany and the romance that Tuscany gives, and Herzegovina is as attractive and has similar potential. What can we do with this? And what can we do with capitalizing on the innovation, the entrepreneurship, the authenticity that the people of Herzegovina bring. We have many of our friends and colleagues from the region. For example, in the Trabzon area, they're working on a slow food experiences. How can we pair slow food with wine? The local cheese in a sack that's being protected now. How can we capitalize on cheese in a sack, not just any cheese, but a cheese that is made in a very special way for centuries and kind of relatively unique to this area with the local wine. So in terms of economic potential for the country, in terms of country brand, in terms of revenue to the wineries, in terms of driving business to all of the experiences around the wineries, all of these are the reasons why USAID is supporting the rise of the Herzegovina wine route as a new distinctive wine route on the world stage. And this is why we're here today to discuss how we're going to achieve this objective. A key milestone, I would say, is inscribing this Herzegovina wine route as a new Council of Europe route with Iter Vitis. And I know Emanuela will be speaking about this shortly. And we thank you for being with us today. And we thank you for all the hours you invested with us already on this, Emanuela. And but with this, I would like to turn over to really the leader of this initiative, Mirna, to also introduce our partner in this, without which we couldn't really come this far, which is the Foreign Trade Chamber of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Our partnership with the local community, with the wineries, is critical, but also our partnership at the national level with our business partner, the Foreign Trade Chamber, is critical. Mirna, over to you.
Da, sad kad je Ibrahim već najavio našeg sljedećeg gosta ili domaćina, ako hoćete, u ovom razvoju, u ovoj aktivnosti, ja ću samo zahvaliti na svesrdnoj podršci ovim aktivnostima i svesrdnoj podršci vinarima i ostalim svojim članovima koje komora daje na redovnoj bazi. To smo se uvjerili u ovim inicijalnim razgovorima gdje su zaista svesrdno prihvatili svoju ulogu i trenutačnu i potencijalnu ulogu u razvoju vinske staze, pa ću ja samo zamoliti gospodina Vukovića da vam se kratko obrati u najavi ovih aktivnosti. Gospodine Vuković, molim vas.
Hvala lijepo. Hvala Mirna.
Možete li se samo uključiti mikrofon? A jeste, pardon.
Jel me čujete? Ok, hvala Mirna i također zahvaljujem kolegi Ibrahimu na srdačnim riječima. Vanjsko-trgovinska komora jeste i bit će vaš partner. Naši konačni ciljevi, naša misija i vizija se upravo slažu, ne govoreći samo dakle o vinskoj cesti. Ovdje bi trebala da bude čaša vina, ali radno je vrijeme, tako da ću nazdraviti sa vodom. Svima želim ugodan rad danas. Dobrodošli su na jedan ovakav webinar koji je upriličen, nažalost, na online platformi. Bilo bi bolje da smo na nekoj vinskoj cesti, da malo vozimo biciklo, kušamo neke delicije o kojima je gospodin Ibrahim već govorio, pa bi sve to imalo neki smisao, ali nadamo se da ćemo uskoro doći i do toga. Sama vaša ideja koja govori o uzdizanju turizma na jednu višu razinu ujedno jeste i konačni cilj Vanjsko-trgovinske komore, odnosno naših asocijacija pri Vanjsko-trgovinskoj komori. Što bi zapravo u ovom vremenu značilo uzdizanje turizma na jednu višu razinu? Sada moramo govoriti o vraćanju turizma na ono staro, jer pandemija je doista na neki način devastirala ovu jednu brzo rastuću granu u Bosni i Hercegovini. 2019. godine mi smo imali između 7 i 8 miliona noćenja u Bosni i Hercegovini, što nije zanemarivo, tako reći, za naše destinacije. Počeli smo razvijati destinacijski turizam za pojedina područja, pa evo sukladno tomu razvila se ideja o nastavku i unapređenju rada na vinskoj cesti. Naš konačan cilj jeste da damo punu potporu, također da surađujemo kao partneri USAID-a, na čemu se izrazito zahvaljujem u osobno ime, u ime Vanjsko-trgovinske komore, posebno kolegici Mirni koja je izrazito aktivna na tom polju i tjera nas, vjerujte da nas dobro tjera da radimo svoj posao i hvala i na tome, naravno. Kažem da ovo nije samo vinska cesta. Gastroponuda, turizam, biciklizam, alpinizam, sve ono što ide uz to, naravno čini zapravo jedan vinski turizam, jednu vinsku cestu u području Hercegovine sa konačnom željom da i mi postanemo dio Itervitisa u konačnici do 2022. godine i naravno da pokažemo sve te ljepote koje su doista ovdje u Bosni i Hercegovini. Naši resursi Vanjsko-trgovinske komore će vam stajati na raspolaganju u svim oblicima i mi smo već razgovarali kako napraviti i neke showroomove da prikažemo naše delicije. Čak smo razgovarali čak i o razini ekološke osviještenosti u toj vinskoj cesti. Bilo je tu jako dobrih i zanimljivih ideja, pa nadam se da će doći vrijeme da malo i govorimo o tome. Na neki način nećemo govoriti samo o podizanju turizma, prikazivanju gastroponude, turističke ponude, na neki način i određenih kulturnih dobara, kulturne baštine u Bosni i Hercegovini, jer želimo pobjeći od silnih digitalnih platformi i moramo to spustiti na jednu razinu da se malo više integriramo, družimo i tako dalje. Ovo je zapravo integracija srodnih ponuda u jedan zanimljivi projekat koji se zove zapravo Vinska cesta. Mi ćemo zajedno sa partnerima USAID projekta i u projektu turizma i sa našim vinarima, bez kojih ovakav jedan projekat ne bi naravno niti uspio, kojim se također posebno ovom prilikom zahvaljujem, pozicionirati se na jedan sami vrh karte vinskog turizma da bude Bosna i Hercegovina. Da tamo kad pretražujete Google ne iskaču, znate, one male ikonice za GPS poziciju, nego male vinske čašice, voćice i tako dalje, da budemo prepoznati i po tome. Ja vam svima želim uspješan rad, uspješnu razmjenu informacija, kvalitetnih iskustava, a nikad ne zaboravite da Vanjsko-trgovinska komora stoji uvijek uz vas i to smo već na neki način pokazali. Hvala vam još jedanput.
Hvala puno, gospodin Vuković. Ovo je bilo inspirativno i ohrabrujuće, nadam se, za sve naše aktere u gospodarstvu Bosne i Hercegovine, u ovom slučaju Hercegovine. Nastavit ćemo dalje sa ovom našom suradnjom. Hvala vam što ste napomenuli te lijepe ideje i projekte na kojima ćemo sasvim sigurno naći način da radimo zajedno. Ja bih samo htjela napomenuti u najavi naše sljedeće govornice da nama u Bosni i Hercegovini vinski turizam nije novi koncept i da se već godinama razvija ta priča vezana za vinsku rutu Hercegovine, ali vinski turizam je jedan uvriježeni koncept europski i već od 2009. Vijeće Europe je certificiralo europsku kulturnu rutu vinove loze i vina Itervitis. Nju nosi Europska federacija Itervitis i mi smo sretni što se u ovim našim nastojanjima da promoviramo hercegovačku vinsku cestu u društvo tradicionalnih vinskih regija Europe pridružila i gospođa Emanuela Panke, ona je predsjednica federacije Itervitis. Na putu ka članstvu u Itervitis usvojit ćemo neke osnovne kriterije i standarde koje će dati garanciju našem gostu koji dolazi iskusiti Hercegovinu. Mrs. Panke, what awaits for us in our journey to membership?
Thank you very much, Mirna. Thank you, Ibrahim, for your words, and thank you for the Foreign Trade Chamber. I'm very excited today because we started to talk about this meeting, this webinar. I think since 3 months ago, something like this. We were waiting for, looking forward this meeting. For us, it will be a new country. For us, it will be a new challenge, but we are very happy to work on this new wine route, Itervitis wine route. I prepared some slide for you just to introduce to you for the people that is not aware about the concept of a cultural route of the Council of Europe, what it means. First of all, I'm gonna move forward like this. A short definition of a cultural route of the Council of Europe. I saw that with us there is also Diane Dodd. She is also an evaluator of cultural route of the Council of Europe, so she is well aware about the criteria you mentioned before. It's a very interesting program of the Council of Europe that promotes cultural heritage, educational heritage, and sustainable tourism through some common topics that all the Council of Europe countries share. So you can find out some phenomenon, you can find out some religious topics like Santiago de Compostela or Via Francigena. It could be related to the very famous person from the Israel, like the route Napoleon. It could be related to history like the Phoenician route. And it's very interesting because despite it's regroup many countries, so we are not talking about the European Union, we are talking about Council of Europe, so we are 47 member states, and it's interesting because it's a huge reservoir of tradition, culture, and as you can see from the map, we are going from Russian Federation to the ocean, Atlantic Ocean. For example, for instance, we have Azores Island in our route. So it's you can face different tradition, different culture, different experience, and you can have some interesting exchange. The program of the cultural route celebrates more than 30 years and is a program so that it's born in 1987, and the very first cultural route has been the Santiago de Compostela route. That is also the most famous, I think, for now. We have the European Institute of Cultural Route in Luxembourg that manage all our activities all over the year, and it's interesting to see the number of the cultural route because you don't have also only the countries involved in the Council of Europe. You have 64 countries crossed, meaning that, for example, Itervitis also crossed some countries from the southern shore of the Mediterranean. So you can imagine how rich is the potential of also economical exchange and how rich and huge is the showcase to present from each country a touristic product. Since 1987, we certified 40 cultural routes. Recently, now we are the exact number is 45 because 5 have been certified last week. So we have some new cultural route, and the interesting thing that we receive the Institute of Cultural Route is receiving every year more application form to become a cultural route of the Council of Europe. It means that the program is working very well as a tool of development for the countries that participate in this program. Why this certification is unique? Of course, we have many religious route, we have a lot of gastronomic route and wine route. But the thing is that the cultural route of the Council of Europe, they have a certification and a quality assurance. As you saw, we have a big networking opportunities. We have visibility, communication, capacity building. We can help the countries associated in the cultural route of the Council of Europe to access to funding opportunities because, of course, the activity of political lobby, the activity of scouting of partner in the different countries, it's easier with such a big network. And of course, we are working in the domain of sustainable tourism, and it's very important. I was hearing the word of Ibrahim, the involvement of the local community in the touristic product related to the cultural route. Very, very short, I want to tell you how we become a cultural route, because it's a very tough procedure, and it's also a guarantee of quality. You have to fill up this application form, and then you pass an evaluation, and the evaluation is around 1 year of evaluation, because you have the first evaluator, you have the evaluation of the governing bureau, you have the final evaluation from the representative of the Council of Europe. Then you receive the certification, but it's not for forever for goods. Every 3 years, you have to apply for a regular evaluation. That means that you have to keep the standard, the quality standard, always very high. As I told you before, the theme of the cultural route has to be representative of European sorry, there is a pool. European values. You have to show to the evaluator and to the Council of Europe that you work with a multidisciplinary group of experts. What it means that, for example, in the case of Iterbitis, it's not enough to be sustained, but people expert in the wine domain, in enology or wine tourism. We have to show that we are working also in the frame of archaeology, history, because all the routes, despite the main topics, are multi-thematic. And this is very important because it's related to the speech of Ibrahim, that it's not enough to offer to the tourists a monothematic product. You have to offer the opportunity to have a product that's satisfied of kind of a target. Of course, you go for you travel through a wine route, but you also want to visit some museum. You want to eat good food and to experience some activities in the field. Here you have some of the priority fields of the resolution of cultural route. Is a resolution from 2013. Another very important thing that you have to show that you work with young Europeans. So we manage as cultural route many activities with the students, with the young expert, and of course that your kind of touristic product is sustainable, and you have of course work with a network of university, because it's very important, the cooperation in research and development. The other thing that you have to show as cultural route, and it's something that's also the request to us as Itervitis, is to have a very strong management body with a legal status. You have to show democratic governance, and you have to show that as a member you have more than 3 countries. Your network can be heterogeneous. In our case, we have Chamber of Commerce, we have tour operator, we have municipalities, and in our case, we are a federation of association. As Itervitis roots, we started in 2007, and at this in this period that I was working as a manager at the Italian Wine Cities Association and European Wine Cities Association, Resevin. So why it's very important to tell why we decide to apply as cultural route, because for us in 2007, so we thought that offer just a wine route wasn't enough. We wanted to offer a multi-thematic product, and we wanted to offer something that show to the world, all over the world, the richness of the vine, so the plants culture in Europe. So is the reason why we decide to apply as cultural route to abandon the banality of a simple wine tourism and to offer something more. And I can hide that at the beginning it was very hard, because the Council of Europe didn't understand that we weren't selling wine. We wanted to sell an experience, and we wanted to promote our wine culture as a part of the European culture. And is the reason why we named Iterbitis le chemin de la vigne, as the path of the vine, the plant, not the wine. But at the end, we received the label in 2009. Since then, we passed many evaluation, periodical evaluation, and we were able to build a very strong network. It's not a simple association, because when we started in 2007, we founded an international association. In 2016, we became a federation. Why? On one side, because we regroup a lot of countries. And what it means, not only that we have a lot of partners, but also that we are spread, you can see in the map, in many areas. Each area has its own needs and its own tradition, its own let's say, level of development of wine and wine tourism. So what we decide is to create some local association and to regroup the local association in a big federation. So for instance, we have Itervitis Portugal and Spain, we have Itervitis Italy, we have Itervitis France, we have Itervitis Caucasus, we have Itervitis Adriatic and Balkans. Since we started with the Itervitis Adriatic and Balkans, as we will see in a few seconds, we manage in this area a lot of activities. Why? Because we think that it's an area that has a lot of potential, and it's very good that we can present this area as presenting as a unique area. Of course, we have our local partner in each country. In Croatia, we have a local partner in Slovenia, we are local partner in all the countries. But we try to, just a second, I have a problem in. I'm sorry, but I am alone. Is a tough day, and so we started with many activities in the area, because this area is an area that has a very high potential, and it's also the reason why I was very happy to receive this request from Mirna I think it was in February. Because something we're missing, it was your country. Because as Ibrahim said before, we have the opportunity in your country to promote a huge immaterial heritage related to the wine production. That it's not only the wine, but all the history, that's all the tradition you collect all over the time. Okay. Here you can see when we started to work in Adriatic and Balkans, we also produced, thanks to the European program Route for You, a catalog with some touristic product from all over our partner in this area. Because it was also a request from the US strategy from Adriatic and Ionian region. The reason why we work very tough on this catalog you can find on our website. Another thing that was surprising for me, I was very proud that since the Corona started, and of course it was a tragedy and very tough period for tourism, as Itervitis we received a lot of requests from new countries to join us. It was a parallel. We received a lot of requests as Itervitis to join us as Cultural Route, and the Institute of Cultural Route in Luxembourg new application from other cultural routes that want to receive the label. It means, in my opinion, that people understood the importance to be part of a big network. And so since we started with Corona, we received the application from Moldova, we received application from Armenia. And it was also very interesting to see that despite the political issue in some areas, the countries were ready to cooperate together. For example, we were able to build Itervitis Caucasus, in the same local association we have Russia and Georgia, we have Armenia and Azerbaijan. So I think that beyond the political issues, the strengthness of the cultural root is also because it represents a tool of cultural diplomacies. As you can see from this big list, among the initiatives we held in the last 3 years, we have the Itervitis Award. We reward the best practice in wine tourism domain. We started, as I mentioned, with Itervitis Caucasus. We had this catalog. We are part of an NECBC Med program. That means that we are working also with the southern shore of Mediterranean Sea, with Jordan and Lebanon. So we manage a cycle of lecture, and we start with a network of wine museum. And the last important thing I want to mention, that the Council of Europe also it's very attentive of the cooperation among different cultural route. So we sign an agreement with the Phoenician route, ceramic route, and Jewish heritage route, meaning that in the frame of Itervitis, we also have a kosher wine route. We have a route of the wine produced and aged in ceramic, and this is, in my opinion, also another important witness on the fact that we can offer multi-thematic touristic product. So thank you. Maybe I was too long, and I leave you the floor. Mirna, if you have any question, I'm still here for some moments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emanuela. This was so useful. You have set our path towards Itervitis. Ja ću se sad vratiti na naš jezik da bih najavila našu sljedeću prezentericu, ali prije toga nekoliko uvodnih riječi. Govorit ću o kulturi destinacije koja se ogleda u kulturnom i prirodnom nasljeđu i načinu života stanovnika jedne destinacije. Mi imamo izvrsno vino, izvrsno. Imamo autentična jela koja su sasvim sigurno naša nepobitna prednost. Interes turista za potpuni doživljaj destinacije raste. Šta sve čini destinaciju? Šta sve čini tu destinaciju jedinstvenom? Kako iskoristiti sve naše prednosti? We really want to hear that from this experience. Mrs. Diane Dodd is the president of International Institute of Gastronomy, Culture, Arts and Tourism, and a co-founder of European Region of Gastronomy Award that has grown into a world region of gastronomy platform. I had to read this. This is a sentence that I really had to read. So Diane, please. I have heard you a couple of days ago, and I'm so happy to have you here and share your wisdom with us on how to value our wine, food, culture, and nature.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you because I decided to prepare a few slides for you. And I want to thank you for inviting me. It was a very nice opportunity. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to visit you in person next time, and be there in the destination. And I also want to thank Emanuela, because she's doing such an amazing job on the Itervitis route. And as she mentioned, I was an evaluator on the Itervitis route, which was a real pleasure to see how they're working and how they're developing the collaboration, cross-border collaboration. Because one of the the clearest things in the Council of Europe's approach is that it has to be a humanistic approach. It has to be about cross-border collaboration. It has to be about showing how we moved across borders and how we have those connections and links from our past, as a kind of an endeavor also to help support peace and stability in the future. So it's a very beautiful value behind the cultural roots. It's a backed by the Council of Europe with all their work that they've done on human rights. So there's a philosophy and a value behind it, and I can't push that forward enough, because I think we've been talking about opportunities right now, opportunities for destination branding, or opportunities post-pandemic COVID for people who will be wanting to look for newer destinations, rural destinations, destinations that have been off the map up until now. But I think the other big possibility here is that, there's two things. One is that the younger generation of travelers, which are our future travelers, are very responsible travelers, and they want and they care about the values and principles behind what we do. And the other thing is that they really want new experiences. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that today, because my job at ICAT is really to work across sectors, and the value of working across sectors is so important. When we first started out, we started with just tourism, culture, arts and gastronomy, and of course wine was in there, but we hadn't really appreciated at first how important that cross-sectorial dialogue was going to be for us, until we launched the European Regions of Gastronomy, which has now turned into the World Regions of Gastronomy Initiative. And what we do in that initiative is we encourage the regions to build a strong stakeholder group across various sectors so that they can work together and collaborate to find solutions to their challenges as a region. And it doesn't need me to tell them what to do. They discover on that journey and through that dialogue. And what's been interesting is when we've seen regions that have extended that dialogue to agriculture or to education or to the economic sectors, just how many solutions they can actually find in the end. But going back to the visitor and the future traveller, we know they work in very different ways to our parents' generation or my parents' generation. They're sustainable, they're responsible, they're globally compassionate. They like to help, support and get involved with local communities. They will spend much more money on experiences than they will on accommodation. That's why we've seen the rise in Airbnbs, couch surfing. Many younger generations, they have contacts or can find friends of friends through social media to stay with them. So, it's not about the accommodation, but when they get there, it's about the experiences and what they will spend their money on. They demand exceptional, unique, sensorial, surprising experiences because they've done so much already. In fact, last week we had a webinar at ICAT that Marina very kindly joined us at. And we heard from Roberta Garibaldi, who's a researcher in Italy, about the wine tasting fatigue, that 90% of travelers had stated that they found that the wine destinations or the wine tasting opportunities were quite similar in places, and they were looking for variety or looking for new possibilities or new exciting experiences. And we assume that they will want to move in smaller groups in future. So if we have And we do think that it is the case, less visitors. And if we, from ICAT, we actually always had the philosophy of saying, look for less visitors that will spend more. And how do you get them to spend more? Well, you have to build new tourism offers and new exciting opportunities for them to spend more. And that means you need to inspire entrepreneurship. And that means you need to train for and accredit for these new tourism offers. And that means also you need to use your online presence to the maximum. And opportunities for cross-marketing are one of the best ways, which is another good reason why you should get involved with an initiative like Itavitis, because it creates opportunities for cross-marketing. And also it creates opportunities for international visibility and greater value in your destination. We always say less visitors also for preservation. You have a beautiful natural environment that is very much unspoilt at the moment. You really do not want to spoil it. So having a conversation with one another about what is the balance you want to hit, the balance between the visitors that you have and the balances that you want to have in terms of visitor numbers in order to stimulate your economy. We talked a lot about this with, for example, Girona. It had a problem. It was receiving 2 million visitors, but they were staying on average for 1 hour and 33 minutes in the city. Enough time to trample around the old quarter and buy a bottle of water, but not much time to spend money in the destination. So the destination was spending a lot of money on renovating and upkeep and cleaning litter and cleaning the streets and trying to preserve the heritage for the visitor, but the visitor wasn't leaving any money in the destination. And was actually causing a problem for the local residents, because the local residents had to try to make their way through the hordes of visitors that were coming in rather large groups. So what did we do with them? We said to them, okay, you need to change your strategy. It needs to be events-led. You need to think about events, experiences that people can have that encourage them to stay overnight. Because the minute you can get visitors to stay overnight, for whatever reason, they automatically then spend more in the destination and you're supporting the local economy. So I would encourage events, particular ones that are held in the evening, jazz and wine, concerts and wine. This is where you then need to start linking your local artists with your wineries, with your gastronomic offers. But you can get much more exciting than that. I'm sure you have many ideas. And if you're not really convinced about the argument, quality or quantity, well, what would you rather have? 5 visitors that spend 500 euros or 500 tourists that spend 5 euros? The amount is the same, but the quality of life for you and your citizens and the people around you and the quality of the visitor experiences changes quite dramatically. So, I would very much not encourage you to go along the lines of trying to, get busloads of tourists across in hordes for your destination, because, that amount of visitors doesn't always translate into amount of revenue in the local economy. So we have to think much more strategically about how do we get people to spend more. So I thought I'd show you this slide. This is a very old one that I have, but just to sort of say, well, it's not always also about just having more restaurants or having more wine tours or having more tastings. It's about giving an experience. So look at the prices here. I mean, the cost of a meal in a restaurant, a pasta meal in a restaurant, what you would get from a tourist, but a visitor who wants an experience will spend up to 200 euros on a pasta making experience if it's done in the right way, in a beautiful environment or a glamorous landscape with a well qualified and accredited chef, and they will spend much more, 8 times more. And so you suddenly change what you need from a visitor. So I know in Venice, a lovely chef who has managed to maintain a great quality of life for herself by offering pasta making experiences in her lovely, almost palatial kitchen, it has to be said. But that she's authentic Italian, accredited chef who's worked in London, New York, and Venice, and she provides this experience. She only needs 6 visitors. Add it up. She only needs 6 visitors once a week at most, and she is doing very, very well for herself. So we can be very strategic about the experiences and what people will pay for them. But in order to really get them to pay more, then the offer has to be exceptional. It has to be creative. It has to be unusual. It has to be unique. So this is where the convergence with tourism, culture, arts, gastronomy becomes very important. So if we can increase the quality of the visitor experiences, also, if we can give international visibility to these niche tourism experiences, which is something that Itivitis, for example, could do or could help you with, if you show that you have values like sustainability and that underpin you, if you can encourage these new initiatives and new startups, then you're really on the right way. And I think this, well, I could talk a lot longer, but I should skip on, but about the difference between the boomer generation tourist and the millennial generation visitor, and what we can learn from them in terms of local stories and so on. Contemporary arts in a winery, why not? The great thing is that you have loads of opportunity to show these experiences. There are many online spaces now, from Vieta on TripAdvisor to Airbnb's experiences. They're all free platforms for you to showcase experiences. And that's where the young people are going to look for experiences. And being part of something bigger than yourself is already giving you added value. So being part of something like the cultural route of the Council of Europe is already telling people you're accredited, you're going to provide quality, that you are part of a bigger family with much stronger values. And that's why when I was an evaluator for the Council of Europe, I was very interested to see how we evaluated the routes. And of course, we're given quite strict criteria also to look at the routes from. And it's everything from the educational, how many, are you doing work in your local community or across the network to educate particularly young people about the values, the history, the story, the acknowledgement of the past. Are you linking with contemporary arts and creativity and other people in the local economy? Are you supporting the local economy from a tourism point of view? Have you been validated by researchers and academics? And is that a cross-border validation, which is why really with a network like the Itivitis, it's fabulous because you become each other's validation, and there's a scientific committee that will validate the information that you give. And do you have strong governance? Emanuela talked about that a little bit. Do you have a strong governance model where everybody is involved and everybody can contribute, and that there is a democracy in that, I think that it's really exciting to see the developments that have been happening in the cultural routes, particularly because the Council of Europe became much more interested in the value of the cultural routes, not just as a humanistic and educational and heritage projects, but as a way to support local economies through sustainable tourism. And the sustainable tourism offer is very useful because you can collect the stamps as you go. So it's very normal that if somebody visits an Itivitis destination in another country and then finds out that you also exist, that you will be on their checklist for a future visit or destination stop. I work with the European regions of gastronomy more closely, and what also we've noticed is that the more collaboration you can do, the more visibility you can get. So many of our regions of gastronomy have been on national television, not paying for that advertising, but providing the content for programs. And because people want the content, and when they see collaboration and they see strong values and strong philosophies, media picks up on this. We haven't paid any money to be on television, ever, or in international magazines or travel magazines, but we're constantly being featured in, major magazines like Lonely Planet or National Geographic or Traveller, because of the collaboration and because of the values that are underpinning them. And then, of course, you can drive that by joint projects or by having competitions or having awards, which Itivitis does. Emanuela will be able to tell you more about that as it goes on. So just to end, for me, the smart strategies are about instilling really strong values and strong principles, building community and collaboration first on the ground in your locality, so that you all agree on the future of your destination. It's about supporting local producers and the circular economy, so getting everybody involved so that everybody can benefit. It's about inspiring entrepreneurship and creativity in the destination. It's about the possibility of increasing sales opportunities in the destination with new food gifts or wine gifts or so on. It's about utilizing social media fully. All the tools are out there now for you to share, and to be very clever about that, because the younger generation also love to share their experiences, so they can be your marketeers for you. You just need to give them the opportunity for the right selfie and they will share it. Be accredited and assure quality. So this is where international labels like the European Regions of Gastronomy or the Itivitis route of the Council of Europe or other routes of the Council of Europe, this is where they become important, because they give that assurity and that validation. Encourage cross-marketing between offers. Don't keep it to yourself. There's no point just working in union. We can't work on our own anymore. We need each other. And so turning who were your competitors in the region can now be your collaborators. And that's really lovely. It's nice to see it and to see that developing. And then building international visibility for the future is all important. So I hope I've given you a small insight there, and thank you.
Well, thank you, Diane. Thank you so much. Thank you, and Emanuela. You both have given us a lot of material, a lot of inspiration, a lot of food for thought, what we are trying to do and what we definitely will do here. Now, sad kad su nam Emanuela I Diane dali inspiraciju, pokušat ćemo to nekako postaviti u stvari krenut ćemo prema konkretizaciji zapravo. Vinska cesta, rekli smo, to je stara ideja, to je opće prihvaćena ideja. Ona ima jake temelje u obitelji vinara u Hercegovini i nakon samo nekoliko sastanaka koje smo imali sa vinarima ovdje, sa ljudima koji se trude da nam zapravo donesu tu srž Hercegovine na stol, prema kojima cijenimo cijelu ovu našu tradiciju pravljenja vina, Obitelj vinara unaprijed razmišlja i prati svjetske trendove u turizmu i iznimnu važnost pridaju marketingu, digitalnoj prisutnosti i podizanju kvalitete i svog proizvoda i podizanju kvalitete turističkih proizvoda koje žele staviti na tržište. U ovom sljedećem dijalogu koji ćemo predstaviti, dvoje iskusnih ljubitelja vina i hrane razgovarat će o tome što je zapravo sljedeći korak u pozicioniranju vinskog turizma Hercegovine na međunarodno tržište. Samir iz Balkantine and Diana from Wineries will tell us about their experiences and their views on wine route development and access to market. Welcome, please.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Well, protocol says that I will go first and I will introduce Diana. Isaac, which is my real personal honor to be a kind of panelist for this session. And but first, let me tell you a few things about Balkantina. We are the first gastrocultural agency in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we are the only one agency that have more than one wine tours. If you check the web pages of tour agencies across the country, you will find most of them, they have one and that's it. But it was our big pleasure a few years ago to develop wine tours in Herzegovina together with wineries, which director and founder Diana is today with us. And we will talk about how to bring people to wine routes. What is important? How to market? How to attract people for wine tours? So I will not go too long. And again, it's my big pleasure to introduce Diana and to introduce actually wineries. And wineries like to say that they are wine and food travel marketplace with 133 destinations and 2,000 experiences worldwide. So, Diana, it's floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Thank you everyone for having me. It's such an honor to be here, albeit virtually. I'm currently hiding at a place called Hyde in London. I'll just show you. I have a board meeting here later. So I'm sitting here at the restaurant with no wine in front of me, which is in my world, it's a crime. But you know, hopefully next time when we meet, we will all be sharing a glass of wine. I would like to start a little bit by introducing Winerist and telling you a little bit about the work that we do, and then as Samir has mentioned, we'll just talk to you a little bit about our experience and some success stories and practices that we take real pride in. So one thing that is worth mentioning is that I am actually Moldovan. I was born in Moldova many years ago now, and I moved to the UK when I was 16 to study here, and I actually had quite a few other experiences before I landed in wine travel, and the way that I landed in this sector was by pure accident. I ended up having an atrocious experience in Burgundy in terms of struggling to find wineries to visit, struggling to find a place to stay, struggling to find a restaurant. And when I came back to London, I thought, look, it would be so amazing if there was kind of a TripAdvisor for wine and food travel experiences where you can go and say, okay, I want to go to the Loire Valley. Where should I stay? Where should I taste? Where should I eat? So I very quickly ended up quitting my job in finance, and took me a little bit of time researching and looking at the market. And, you know, we're talking 7 years ago. The industry has seen the most incredible evolution. We are extremely fortunate in that 7 years ago, you were talking about success stories, and you were looking at places like California, where you were seeing good practices of wine travel, and Europe was kind of lagging behind. And in recent years, in our experience, we have seen unbelievable destinations like Hvar, for example, which is now a very popular and very successful destination for us. Moldova, which obviously, you know, I'm particularly proud of because it is home for me. But also locations like Hawaii, you know, where people are starting to think about, you know, going and tasting wine and enjoying the local drink. So 7 years on, Samir has said we're working in about 130 destinations. We have a little bit under 2,000 experiences, and that is primarily because we spent this year during COVID to reassess our experiences and to work with new and existing partners in terms of optimizing product. And I think that product is one area that I really would like to address today, because when it comes to the question that we were asked to approach today, how do you get bookings? Product is obviously key. So there's nothing more, I guess, stressful than for our industry than the year that we have just seen. And COVID has really put our industry to test, hospitality in general, but wine tourism probably more so, in the sense that we deal with small and medium-sized type of experiences. So we're not talking bus tours, we're not talking big tours, we're not talking large numbers of people. There are very, very few wineries in the world that can accommodate for those types of experiences. But our industry has come under a lot of stress because we rely on two things. We rely on small groups of people who are new to us and who are visiting the destination and who are probably in location for other reasons, and wine and food tourism becomes a component part of their trip. And the second thing is obviously the fact that we rely a lot on repeat customers. Wine and food is such a labor of love, and it is so much down to people. And Samir and I were talking about it yesterday, and we were saying that it's just so much about people, that people who, those kind of visitors that come and visit our wineries and do our tours, they like to come back. So for us, those repeat customers are extremely important. We rely on them because we want them to come back, and we want them to refer their friends and their family to always return and bring and come back to the location. So obviously, in terms of, you know, how did we use this year? How did we spend the past 12 months in terms of working with our partners and having the communication with them? We've really focused on product and said, look, you have to rethink your product and think about what's going to happen once we are coming to the end of this crisis. And obviously the pandemic is far from being over, and the consequences are going to be felt for a long time. But the recovery that we're going to be seeing, we are going to be seeing it very much in our sector, because people are going to increasingly want to be outside. They're going to increasingly want to have experiences like winemaker dinners, visits in the vineyard, which are not only COVID friendly, but they're also family friendly. And you know, the family-friendly element is extremely important. And finally, what you want to do is you want them to fall in love with you as a person. You want them to really establish that connection with you. And one thing that we're really proud of is that whenever we've sent people to see and do tours with you, Samir, they've really fallen in love with the people. You know, first of all, you, but also the individuals that have been introduced. You know, the feedback has been so positive. Sorry, I think my connection just dropped. Am I back? Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. So if we are to kind of talk about the landscape and what is about to happen, and how are we going to be doing? What are we going to be doing next? And recovering in this post-COVID world. Samir and I, we were having a chat yesterday, and we kind of identified some points that we wanted to put up for discussion. And then obviously if anyone has any questions, we'd be very happy to talk them through. But the first thing that we wanted to mention is the aspect of branding and awareness. Obviously, the world has changed so much in recent years. And we can all agree that it is very much the big power, the big power sits with the aggregators. It sits with companies like Viator, it sits with companies like Airbnb, with companies like wineries that have a big distribution power and network, and that have the money and the resource and the staff to invest in product, in advertising, in making sure that your product is always at the top of the searches and gets the right customer through the door for you. So when you're thinking about your experience, always think that first step is obviously to have your product identified and to make sure that your product is there. But think about the fact that you as a player, small and medium-sized, you really can rely on the power of marketplaces that can take on your product and can match make you with the right consumer. There is nothing wrong in giving up commission. There is nothing wrong in obviously negotiating your commission with these marketplaces and ensuring that it is the fair commission for you. And don't allow them to push you in terms of, you know, it being to your disadvantage. But I think it is really, really important that you rely on their expertise and on their distribution to make sure that they can sell more for you. They can get those bookings in for you so that you can focus on product, so that you can focus on making sure that your experience is the best, that your people who are offering the experience are the best. And that whoever comes to you to have that visit goes back and thinks, wow, those individuals, they really know what they're doing. You know, I have fallen in love with them. I have fallen in love with their wine, and I want to buy that wine and I want to drink it when I come back home. The second thing that we talked about, and it is something that I love to talk about until I get blue in the face. And you know, we've gone through this exercise in Moldova, and we've been talking about it to all of our experience providers. Real-time availability is really important. Now, what is real-time availability? We've moved so far from the days when emails were sent, when phones were picked up, where people were comfortable with spending time waiting for you to get back to their emails. Today, if you're talking especially about the younger demographic, they want to have everything available at their fingertips. I found something that I like. I want to buy it. I want to buy it now. I want my payment to be safe and secure, and I want to make sure that my confirmation is received instantly. One of the issues that we're having most of the time with some of the best experience providers, and that is primarily the wineries, is that they do not work in real-time availability. And it becomes really, really challenging, because when we're talking about wineries, what happens? They are booked at the last minute. Very rarely customers think about the fact that they are going to go somewhere and they are going to go and book their visit to that winery 2-3 weeks in advance. Most of the time is, I've come to the destination, I want to visit the winery, I'm going to try to book it for tomorrow or for the day after tomorrow, and in some cases even for today. So then what they want to do is they want to make sure that that experience is available and it can be confirmed and paid in real time. Now, on the other side, you have the wineries and you have the tour operators. The thing with real-time availability is that it protects you, because a lot of the time with people who are booking at the last minute, the cancellation level can also be very high. And if they haven't paid you, if they haven't committed to something through a real-time availability tool, they're very likely to change their mind and they're very likely to not turn up. Then what happens? Somebody called you, they booked something for tomorrow, they haven't paid for it, you've opened all your wines, the next day they don't turn up because they went to the restaurant down the road and they had a really fun time the night before, and the next day they wake up with a headache and they think, you know what, we're just not going to go to the next vineyard. So then you're sat there waiting for them, nobody's there, and you've basically paid for your stuff, you've opened your wine, you have your food ready, and there is absolutely no way to hold them accountable. Real-time availability systems are there to do that for you. They capture the payment, the money is in your bank account. If the client doesn't turn up, That is their problem, not yours. And this ties in also with another thing, the aspect of people. A lot of the time, because we're working with small and medium-sized wineries, there is an aspect of no staff dedicated to winery work. Now, obviously, if you are going to embark on this project, and if you're going to go ahead and regard wine tourism as an intrinsic aspect of your life, your professional life, then you have to commit to it. And I know that Olga is going to be speaking after me from etc. And I'm really excited about it, because Olga is a real example of how people in a family commit to a product and they make it work. They make sure that there is an individual, multiple individuals who are dedicated to it. They know what they're selling. They are learning the product. They're making sure that people are always there. And it is extremely important that going forward, we establish who is the person within the family that owns the winery, within the family that runs the tour operator, who is going to be running wine experiences. They have to become the expert. They have to become the person that you go to. And they have to be there. They don't have to be there every day, but you have to know that they're going to be there on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or just on Tuesdays. And that person has to be committed and has to be able to take those tours for you. And again, the thing with real-time availability, a calendar, you put your dates for your tour in the calendar for Tuesday. That person knows that they're doing wine tours on Tuesday, and everything runs smoothly as per plan. The other thing with people and committing people within the team to your product and making sure that they're always there is that they become the best ambassadors for you. They're the ones that are going to be remembered. They're the ones who people are going to be talked about. Olga is being talked about. She's the person who people recognize. They always say, you're going to go and hang out with Olga, who's really, really cool, and who is going to show you a really good time. And that is exactly what you want to have. You want to have those individuals who are associated with your brand, who show you the best possible experience. Now, finally, before I hand the reins back to Samir, what I wanted to talk about very quickly is the aspect of visibility and making sure that you are available online. I'm sure that you have heard so many stories about and have been told so many times about the fact that you need to have a website, that you need to have a Facebook page, that you need to have an Instagram page, that you need to spend on online visibility. The truth is that you don't need to do everything at once. One thing that you don't get told is that you are absolutely, it is an absolute must that you do things gradually within your comfort zone and with the funds that you have available. To aim too high and to try to do everything at once is not possible. Believe me, I've tried to do it at the beginning as a founder of a business, and it did not work. And I had to learn the hard way that I need to plan and I need to always measure every single one of my actions. I've tried something, I've done it. Does it work? It doesn't work, move on to the next thing. If it does work, fantastic. What else can I add to it? Same thing with online visibility. It's so important that you don't start by investing in a website and in Facebook and in Instagram and in everything at once. And if you are going to start with a website, then my advice is to absolutely not invest tens of thousands of euros in a platform, because I can guarantee to you that that is too early in the day. And make sure that your website does the basics of what you need, represents you, or your Facebook page does the basic, represents you, has your contact details, has information about what.
Well, I think we lost Diana for a moment, but maybe I can go on and add a few words from our personal experience.
Yes, please, Samir.
Yeah, when we start to work with wineries, it was kind of even beginning of our works. We didn't have big experiences in organizing wine tours. So by applying all these principles that Diana just mentioned regarding not creating big web pages, not spend money on social networks, we were more focused in developing content of tours. So we work because we were facing situation and that we have many wineries in that region of Herzegovina close to Dubrovnik, and that many of these good wineries that produce good wine couldn't provide good storytelling and good additional experiences around wineries. So my conclusion would be it's better more to focus of developing, building connection, building partnership, and building capacity of local service providers, meaning wineries or some other activities around wineries, and just have them basically provide provided information on internet. The real wine lover, those who are searching for this kind of tours, they will recognize with just few pictures, with just few words, they will be able to understand what are you offering. It mustn't be a big movie of half an hour to present a winery. It's just a few good words grab attention of potential clients.
Absolutely, I agree. You know, it doesn't have to be an award-winning website. You have to be an award-winning service, you know, but at the end of the day, you're not competing to become a technology business. You are competing to be offering the best possible hospitality service. And, you know, I like what you said, Samir, about the fact that working together is really important. You know, initiatives are really, these are really great, and we have seen their success in places like Georgia and Moldova, and they are fantastic because what they do is they give tourists a very good understanding of how to do the wine route. You know, what along the wine route do you need to see? Who are the people that you need to visit? What are the places where you have to stop? And, you know, this kind of idea of multiple locations or multiple individuals or multiple wineries working together is so important. You and I were talking about the importance of differentiating product, you know, and making sure that you and the group of wineries that you are surrounded by, or that you have in your vicinity, that you work together to say, okay, so I'm going to be offering a cheese making workshop. Can you please not offer a cheese making workshop? Maybe you can do something different, like a horseback riding, and so on and so forth. Because having wineries that offer the exact same product in one location, it's very complicated. It gives consumer fatigue. We have a lot of customers who come to the website and they book various visits in that location. And then when they book them online, they will put a comment and they'll say, we don't want to be seeing any more barrels. We don't want to be seeing any tanks. We don't want to be, which is exactly right, because once you've done 10 winery visits, you very quickly realize, well, a barrel is a barrel. And you have to be so geeky about wine to want to see 20 barrels in a day, that it's extremely important that differentiation is there. So obviously your first differentiation is the people, because they're the ones who are going to stand out during the visit, and your second differentiation is your visit. Obviously they're going to do a wine tasting in all these places, but what else are you going to be doing? One thing that people are really sensitive to, especially people who are traveling with families, is how aware you are of the fact that there are children in the group. A lot of the time, we have, initially when we only just started working, everyone was a little bit cautious around having children on tour. But now we have everything from a table where they can draw things. They can sit down and they draw, and somebody like the winemaker's daughter comes and spends time with them and asks them to draw grapes of wine, for example, or they'll be given grape juice to be tasting at the table with the parents, which again is really fun for them, or there is some activity for them in location. And another thing that people are really sensitive to is never ever put anyone on a wine tour for 2 hours and then give them wine at the end. Give them a glass of wine first and then send them on the tour. And when you are selling your tour online, that is a very good way of getting bookings. That is a very, very good way of making sure that people book through you. Make sure that in your description of your experience, you say, we start the tour with a glass of wine, or we start the tour with a glass of sparkling wine. And I can guarantee to you that the vast majority of people are going to look at it and think, oh, thank God, you know, I'm not going to have to go on a vineyard visit for hours before I get given my first glass of wine. And then everyone is relaxed and you can have a really, really good time that way.
I want just to remind you what you've been told us when we were in preparation for this event, that for majority of visitors, customers, the quality of wine at the end even doesn't matter. It's much more important to have good storytelling, to have good atmosphere around the tour, and of course around the winery and other side attractions to visit. At the end, like people forget to think about the quality of wine. Is it high quality? And what's count is like just human words, and of course diversification of attraction that are connected with this tasting.
I'm going to stop you to agreeing on everything up until now. And I'm just going to post you one question that came from the audience on the Facebook. And I think it's relevant to you, Diana. Mr. Anthony Shine asks, what are the experiences of winemakers in the other countries regarding marketing? It is a fact that beer makers, brewers, are more often using advertising and sponsorship than winemakers. Is that the reason why they sell wine slower comparing to the beer? So this is a beer wine question. And we are all here wine lovers, so give us something.
No, absolutely. And we do beer tours and gin tours and other experiences in the sector. I can tell you that obviously the beer market is a very big market. You know, if you are talking about beer tourism in general, it's a huge size of the market, and it's a very interesting one. You know, the big difference between beer and wine tours that we're seeing is that obviously in terms of the studies that we're doing, or the statistics that we have, beer lovers have tend to show that they drink beer more often than the wine lovers. So wine lovers, when you are running into reviews with them and surveys online, they say that they drink wine a lot less. So there's a much higher frequency with beer than there is with wine, or somebody is lying on the survey. But you know, the bottom line is that you know, beer is seen as more common as a drink, as a relaxation drink. You know, you go out, you share a beer. There is also beer and marketing in general. There is a lot of push behind these companies in terms of creating brand loyalty and brand awareness. You know, the wine industry is very different. Nobody will be surprised or upset with me if I say that it's a very fragmented market. And you know, if you are going to talk about the big guys, the big wineries, they obviously have such a big push. They have so much revenue that they can really push through the door in terms of creating this loyalty. With us, it's very different because we have a few big wineries, a few big wine estates that obviously push a lot in terms of marketing their wine, their drink. However, in the vast majority of cases, those wineries are not the wineries that people are going to go and visit, because it just so happens that they don't really offer tourism. If you go to Heineken, for example, their visit to their visit center, it's literally like Disneyland for beer lovers. you can't have the exact same thing with the vast majority of wineries that we work with. So obviously, very different scales, very different experience, a lot more time and a lot more passionate and commitment when it comes to the product that these winemakers are putting online. Also, it's a real sacrifice in many cases, because these winemakers, what they really want to be doing is they want to be making wine. About
Yes.
really want to be welcoming visitors, but that is what we are here for. We are here to help you sell it, to make sure that you can optimize your time, and to make sure that, you know, whatever you do spend online, on welcoming visits, it can resonate, and the experience is so great that they become your customers over time.
Thank you very much,
it's
Diana.
Not probably the answer.
Yes.
Probably not the answer they were expecting, but it's the best answer that
there is a difference in the market. Thank you very much. I have one more question, and I'm going to let Samir address it, but it doesn't even have to be here, because I know the sender, and I could have answered myself, but I really want you to be the one who will address it. Mrs. Palandric is asking, can somebody recommend where and how to book a tour for 16 persons, the wine tour in Herzegovina? So please address it somewhere else, because I'm so eager to announce our next speakers. So if you will allow me, I will thank you both, Samir and Diana, for a lot of informations, great informations, for everything that we have found out from you. I hope that people had pen and paper to put things down, because it will surely be useful. So it is my great pleasure to announce my next speakers. And I have to tell you that I have been quoting you legally in my presentations, in my learning about the wine tourism, because you have written so many things that people can learn from. And it's such a pleasure to announce you here. These people that are coming up next are the wine lovers and the wine tourism lovers, and they're writers, and they spoke and they wrote for many publications, many relevant magazines about tourism, and they are here. What is the most interesting to us at this point is that they are wine tour operators with a worldwide experience living now in France. They are going to give us their experiences, their instructions that we will use to be a significant competition to French wine routes and wine tours. This is Britt and Per Carlson, owners and managers of BK Wine Tours. We are here, and we do have pen and paper. I do have pen and paper to write all this down. Thank you.
Thank you, Mirna. Just a quick check first. Is the sound okay? Because
Sound is
okay.
Great.
That's fine. Sound is great. Great. Well, thank you very much for inviting us here. It's really exciting, and it's particularly exciting because we're actually coming back to Herzegovina, because we were there quite a long time ago, but it was a great visit. What I will be sharing with you, quite a lot of things. I will be using a presentation, and I hope that will work fine. So let me share my screen with you. There we go. And here. So what I'm going to talk about actually is quite a lot of things in the wine tourism world. I'm going to try and cover quite a lot of things, and much of it will tie into what the previous speakers have been saying, not least or very much so, that what we're talking about here is experiences and about people. I will talk a bit about, in general, what the wine tourism universe is, what wine tourism is, and how you can work with others. I'll give you very much practical examples and some hints on what I think you can do to work better with wine tourism. And the approach of what I will be saying is very much addressing wineries' issues. I'm not talking so much about the promotional organizations, but I'm really talking about wineries, the people on the ground who do wine tourism. First, just a couple of words about who we are. As you mentioned, we're wine writers, wine journalists. We write a little bit both online, or mainly online. We've written a few books. 11 is just coming out in August. But more importantly today and here is that we are running a wine tourism business. We're a wine tour operator. In a normal year, which we haven't had this year, of course, we do about 30 wine tours in a year. Which means that we personally, both Britt, who is on another screen here, and we visit about 200 and 300 wineries in a year. Over the years, we have visited probably, well, many thousands of wineries. So what I'm going to say here is really very much based on what all these experiences are. We've been doing this for 20 years, and so we've seen quite a lot of development. But the core is really the same. It varies very much from one country to another, so everything is not necessarily applicable to everyone. We've been to wineries on all 5 continents, and we do wine tours on 4 of the 5 continents. So let's go. First, just explain a little bit who we are more precisely. So we organize wine tours, which means that people come to us and go on a wine tour trip, which means that they typically visit over a 3-day period, maybe 10 wineries. We don't do one-off things. We don't do, well, I want to visit a winery in an afternoon, so can we call you up and you take us to winery? That's not really what we do. We do this by, we're actually 100% full service tour operator, you could say. We do everything from the beginning to the end. We do the planning, we do the organization of everything. We do everything except actually the winery visit, which the winery does, of course. Doing this, we work very much independently with all the partners that we need to involve in this, but we also work pretty much, very much in collaboration with different kinds of organizations, entities. So this being said, then let's jump into the wine tours universe. The core of wine tourism is the wineries. If we don't have wineries, we don't have wine tourism. So this is really you're the star, the wineries. You're the reason we're all here. You're the ones who give us a living. But around you, there is a whole bunch of different organizations, entities, things. So let's take a little bit of a look at who are the different types of organizations that are involved in wine tourism. You have, of course, the big tour operators, the generalists, the big guys. The TUIs, what used to be Thomas Cook before they went bankrupt, Virgin Holidays. Usually these are national, big companies, national, that do a big part of the general tourism in the country. You have the tour operators, but specialists, that's us, like us. You have, we do nothing but wine. You have others who do nothing but safari or sailing holidays. We're specialists, and it's very different being a specialist and being a generalist. You have then the classic travel agents, which are the ones who have a shop on the main street, the people who you can walk into the office and book a holiday, which are actually these days living a tough life because it's more and more moving over to internet. The travel agents, they're kind of resellers, and they're actually quite similar to these people over here in the top right, the booking portals. I call it booking portals. It is what we just listened to with Winerist is one of the most famous ones. There are other ones which are similar, but maybe not so well known, like Wine Tour Bookings, Wine Pass, etc. These people are essentially providing a platform for bookings and being a link between an internet visitor, an internet surfer, which everyone is today, and some service provider. Booking.com for hotels, but for the wine industry. In addition, in this group also, there is a couple of others that I think you should be thinking of also. One of the previous speakers mentioned this, for instance, Airbnb experiences. Airbnb not only rents out apartment space, but they also now provide experiences. So they're also a platform between the winery and the visitors. TripAdvisor is similar. It's also a very important player in this. And Google actually is more and more involved in this space also. You have the incoming tour operators, or sometimes called the DMCs, the destination management companies, which are essentially tour operators, but on a specialized, very localized base, building custom products, usually putting together things from different service providers. And then you have, of course, also very importantly, the promotion organizations, and there are lots of different kinds of promotion organizations. For instance, the ones who are organizing this conference, and also the ones who have spoken earlier today. National Tourist Office, the government ministries for tourism, and lots of organizations in this space. Everyone does different things. And to understand a little bit how to work with this, it's good to have this kind of picture in front of you. It looks, well, it looks simple maybe, but it's not that simple because it's really very fuzzy. You have lots of, there are no clear borders between these different types of companies. The guides on the ground, the feet on the ground, which I didn't mention previously, but everyone knows what it is. They are sometimes tour operators. They're sometimes incoming, the tour operators, the generals, etc. So it's just keep it in mind. So that is kind of setting the ground for what wine tourism is about, or how it's organized. One thing I would like to start out when we're talking about wine tourism, or when you're thinking about wine tourism, in particular, a winery is thinking about wine tourism, you have to think about, why do you want to do wine tourism? What's your objective? What do you want to achieve? Well, maybe you want to sell more wine to visitors because they buy wine when they come to your winery. Maybe you want to sell tickets because you're charging for visits. Maybe you want to use the wine tours as a promotion tool. Make yourself better known, build customer relationship. You meet someone and you, like Diana mentioned, you meet someone and they come back and they come back, so you establish a relationship with the customer. There is no right or wrong answer in this. Different wineries have different objectives, and when you start working with wine tourism more actively, it's just useful to think of what it is you really want to get out of it. But what you shouldn't forget also is what do the others want to get out of it? Maybe you want to sell wines to your visitors at the cellar door, but maybe that's not what is a good objective for your partners that you're working together with. It's helpful to think about what one and the other has as objectives. Right. And my little piece of advice in this, wine tourism, if you're a winery and thinking about doing wine tourism, look at it as a long-term thing. Wine tourism is rarely for short-term profit, for short-term sales. It's more about brand building, customer relationship. But then again, it all depends. It depends on your strategy and what you want to achieve. For instance, if you're on the Riviera, the French Riviera, and you're making rosé wine, you're probably selling 80% of your wine at the cellar door. So yeah, I mean, that's a priority for you if you're in that situation. So let's think about the product. Diana also talked about the product, and it's important to think about the product, because when you're proposing something to a customer, it is really a question of the product. I used to work, I mentioned we've been doing this for 20 years, but before that I did entirely different things, and I used to actually work in marketing. So product is very important. We have tried to structure the different kinds of products that are offered in the wine tourism world in 4 different categories to try and analyze how it works. It's big budget wine tourism, eventification, edutainment, and open door. And I want to show a little bit more what I mean with these different things, because it's very different, and it is helpful to understand how these different things work in wine tourism. So let's start from the top. Big budget wine tourism. Sometimes I call it Disneyland wine tourism, which is not a negative way of saying it. It just means that it costs a lot of money to invest in to build Disneyland, so it costs a lot of money to do big budget wine tourism. It's big projects. It's the one that makes headlines. It's the type of projects, wine tourism projects, that makes headlines. Which means that it is wine tourism projects that are not available for most wineries. It is very few who can invest 5 million euros or 10 million euros in building something. I think we will hear from etc. in Moldova after I finish this, and they're an example of a fairly big budget wine tourism project, because they have invested. They have built a restaurant, they have built a hotel, they have even built an airstrip so you can fly in with your own airplane if you want. It's not for everyone. Actually, it's very few who can do it, but it can be very good. I'm not in any way negative to this, because it can be a very good magnet to bring people to your wine region. The thing here, the strange metal thing you see on the left bottom here is the Louisium, a wine event place in Austria. The thing on the right bottom is a fascinating winery in Rioja, Dynasty of Vivanco, that's built a fabulous museum with wine art and wine historic things. Right. Then we talk about eventification. It's about creating events like festivals, like wine days, wine walks, all sorts of events. Again, coming back to Moldova, the wine day or the wine vernissage in Moldova is a good example of that. Or the Fête du Vin in Bordeaux is another good example, where you have tens of thousands of people who come to Bordeaux to taste wine over a couple of days in a big place where you can taste thousands of different chateaux of wine. This is really also a good crowd magnet. It attracts a lot of people. It attracts a lot of attention. But again, it costs a lot of money. So it's very rarely done by any winery. It's generally things that are organized by national wine offices, regional wine marketing boards, or things like that. But they can be very, very useful to make your wine region better known. And also, which is not to forget, they can be very, very important to improve the collaboration between wineries in that whichever specific wine region it is. Actually, there are a few people, private wineries, who do these kind of things. One example I mentioned here is the Jazz Festival at Château Hospitalet. This is a big winery in the south of France that has a really beautiful hotel with a restaurant around next to the winery. And every summer they has a jazz festival, two days jazz festival, where they invite really world-leading jazz musicians. So if you're a jazz fan and a wine fan, this is a good place to go. So let's take the next step. And now we're coming closer to the close to the ground wine tours, or what I call edutainment. Edutainment is a bizarre word, which is a contraction of education and entertainment. And what I mean by that is best illustrated by a few examples. For instance, at Mongra winery in Chile, you have a half-day workshop where you learn how to blend your wine. This is what is illustrated down at the bottom here. So you get 3 different kinds of wine, 3 single varietal wines, and then everyone is given the task to make their own preferred blend. And then in the end, you have a little competition where you say whose blend is the best, and then everyone wins and gets a bottle of wine back to bring back at home. Another example of this kind of thing is participating in a wine harvest for a day. That you can do as an example at Château l'Estrie in Bordeaux. Many other places do it also. Or in Argentina at a winery called Alpamanta, they take you around and show you exactly what they mean by biodynamic winemaking. They show you the cow horns, they show you the compost and the cow dung and the sheep and everything, and they explain it so that you as a wine lover understand better what it is. This is something any winery can do. It doesn't require that much. It does require a little bit of investment. Sometimes maybe you need to buy some stuff to make these things happen. What it takes above all is a little bit of effort. Well, first of all, you have to have the idea of what you want to do, and then it takes a bit of effort and a bit of time. But the really important thing with this is that it gives the visitor to the winery a really unique experience. You can imagine the people who have been to the Mongra wine workshop, what they think afterwards. Wow, this was the best thing on this 2-week wine tour you had. It was such a fantastic thing. It's a really interesting thing to try to work with. And the last and fourth category of this is what I call the open door wine tourism, and it describes exactly what it is. You just open your door to the winery visitor. You don't, well, anyone can do it. You don't need anything really. It doesn't cost any money. It does cost time, and it does require that you really want to do it, that you have an enthusiasm to do it. You don't even need to have a tasting room. The only thing you need is to want to really receive visitors. And it's really about you as a winery showing the visitor what it is you do, what is your life, what is your business. Like, for instance, what I'm showing here down at the very bottom is this guy called Bernard, who is a winemaker and owner of Clos Saint-Louis. And he simply shows what winter pruning is. For a winemaker or for a winery, winter pruning is tedious, boring, cold, horrible work in the winter. But if you're a winery visit, this is really interesting, understanding why you need this little stick here, what's important with the buds here, why you need to tie this branch along the wire. That's really important, really interesting for someone who doesn't have to do it for 6 weeks in a row. Simple to do, everyone can do it. So this then leads to the product. What you have to think about then is, what is the kind of product that you want to do, that you want to share, that you want to bring to the market. It doesn't matter if you're a big winery or if you're a small winery, you have some kind of product and you have maybe no budget, but it doesn't matter. You can still get someone to really remember you once they have been there. a few pictures you might recognize, actually. So now, what's your product? It's an important question, but there is no really best answer to it. There is also, I should maybe not say this in this meeting, but I'm saying it anyway. Since there is no best answer for what is the appropriate product, everyone is different. So some of these approved wine destination badges or wine tourism trophies that you sometimes hear about, they should be taken with a good pinch of salt. I think the ones who usually win those things or are mentioned are the big budget projects, but they're not really the ones always who are the kind of bread and butter of wine tourism in the wine region. That's the small and medium wineries. So what's right for you is not necessarily right for someone else. Talking about product, you have to talk about price also. What's the appropriate price? Now, this is mainly just to give you an idea of it's something that you have to think of. There is no right answer. We work with people where the price is zero. They charge nothing for a visit. We work, or not really very much, with wineries that charge 500 euros per person for a visit. More is not necessarily better or the other way around. It very much depends on what you want to do, what your strategy is. Right, moving along. The other thing you need to think about is who is your client? Who is your wine tour, winery visitor? And here again, I've tried to structure this in a way and defined 3 different kinds of wine tours, wine tour profiles, wine tourists. You have the wine geeks, the ones who come to your winery and they really want to know everything. What kind of pump do you use? Is it a peristaltic pump? What's your fermentation temperature? What filter do you use? And do you use rubber tubes, etc.? They want to know everything. You have the little bit bigger category, which is the gastro-tourists or the pleasure seekers, who basically come to a wine region or come on a wine tour or go visit a winery because we love wine and food. We want to spend a couple of days here in this region and taste all the good wines you have and taste the good food you have. Sometimes also you could call them wine enthusiasts if they're a little bit more on the geeky side. And then you have the really big group of wine tourists, the casual passers-by, the ones who say, oh yeah, we're in a wine region, let's go and taste a winery. They find someone or they call someone up and say, yeah, can we come and taste some wine and have a glass of wine at your winery? That's the big volume of wine tourists. Now, the important thing with this is that if you're receiving a wine geek and you're giving them something which is designed for the casual passers-by, they won't be happy. Or the other way around, if you're receiving a casual passerby and you're giving them something which is good for a wine geek, they won't be happy either. So what you really need to think about is figure out who is this client, who is this visitor that comes to you. Preferably you figure it out before they come, or if you can't, you try and figure it out when they put their feet on the ground in your winery, so that you can make sure that they get what is appropriate for them. Right, so now a few words about working with some of the big groups of partners that you may or may not want to work with. Starting with the big tour operators, this is actually quite difficult because even if we can count the numbers and we can say that wine tourism is $1 billion business, yes, that's true. but it is tiny, tiny, tiny compared to the general wine tourism, general tourism. So the big tour operators, they work with general tourism. They work with big volumes of people, small margins often, but working with niche solutions like wine tourism can be very difficult for them. If you want to do that, for a winery to do that, you probably need to find a way to provide some cookie cutter solutions, cookie cutter packages. Well, what I mean with that is standardized. The tour operator can tick a box and know that they get this package from you, and they can send 25 people to you if they have a group that wants to do a winery visit. And that comes to the next thing. This kind of tour operators often work with big numbers of people. So it's not something that is usually appropriate for smaller wineries. And it's also something that will bring the kind of casual visitors, which are mainly there for a glass or two or three of wine and not for anything else. If you want to do this as a winery, well, first you need to have the appropriate size, I think, and then a good idea might be to work with promotional organizations, with incoming organizations or DMCs, which are often a link between the big big tour operators and others. Next, then, working with partners as small tour operators. And small tour operators, then I'm basically talking about ourselves. What a winery, if you want to work with this kind of partners, you need to be able to offer, preferably, ideally, some kind of unique experience. And when I say unique, it doesn't have to be strange or different or something special. Unique in the sense that it is you, it's a person, it is when people walk out of your winery, they feel that they have had some special moment with you. Just a glass of wine in a wine tasting room with someone who doesn't know a lot about wine is not enough. You need to be reliable, which means, for instance, that if we book a visit with you, please don't call us 3 days in advance and say, sorry, I have been invited to a fishing expedition, so I can't receive you in 3 days' time. That is really, really tough. It happens and you'll solve it, but it's not very, very nice. The visitors you will get with these kind of partnerships is typically the wine enthusiasts, the people who really love wine and food. They might not buy a lot of things from you when they come to your winery because they may come from far away, so they're flying in and I mean, they have just a couple of bottles they can bring, but they will remember you if you give them this unique and special experience. Working with the next type of partners I wanted to mention is the booking portal, so the winerists of this world, which is becoming more and more frequently seen on the wine tourism scene, I think. The really big advantage of working with these people is that they have a big reach internationally. Their profession really is marketing on the internet. They're very internet savvy. They know how to come high up in Google rankings. On the other hand, they're not always very wine savvy. And the other thing you need to remember is that you, in many cases, you actually are the one who needs to do all the work. They need a lot of information for their for their programs on their website, and you need to do all that for them. So make sure you have the interest and time to be able to do that. They also tend to ask for fairly hefty commissions, which may or may not be a problem. It depends on your strategy, as I said. They also tend to bring the casual visitors. Oh yeah, we're in a wine region. Let's go and visit a winery. Yeah, let's see if we can find someone. And the last thing, which is, I think, maybe really important also in this context, is if you want to work with them, make sure you get to know who they are. Ask them for visitor statistics. Ask them for what you can expect in terms of bookings, or how it works with bookings in other comparable places. Right. So now, one of the things which we promised is to give you the answer to the single most important thing in order to be successful in wine tourism. And I'm afraid this will be an anticlimax, or maybe not. Maybe it won't be an anticlimax. The single most important thing in order to be successful in wine tourism is make your wine region famous. People come to wine regions, people do wine travel or go to wineries in wine regions that they're familiar with. So if you really want to develop wine tourism, develop the fame of your wine region. And how you do that is, it's actually interesting, because you develop the recognition, the fame of your wine region pretty much in the same way as you develop the wine tourism offer in your region. So let's look at that. The important thing here is collaboration. You need to collaborate with, basically with everyone. It's very difficult to go alone, and some people can, some people do, but it's much more easy, much more effective if you work together. One of the things you maybe not think of is working together with other wineries. They're not your competitor. They're really they're really your friend, other wineries. Making actually parallel with, again, with Moldova is one of the challenges with developing wine tourism in Moldova is that they only have about a little bit more than a dozen wineries that you can visit in the country. So going from one winery to another may take you 2 hours or 3 hours. And it's better if you have a critical mass close by. So work together with your colleagues rather than competitors. We talked about food and local earlier today, so I won't mention that very much. Another thing I actually wanted to bring up and focus a little bit more is not so local organizations, and in particular the wine importers. That's an interesting wine. That's an interesting one. Wine importers, that is the one who you work with, when the ones who sell your wines in other countries, they're really a really good channel for you to get to reach wine tourists. They would love to send people to your place to visit your winery. So think about that. Talk to them about it. Another important part in this is the promotional organizations. Well, that's why we're here. They play an extremely important role, but they're not the only important role. The really important ones is the winery. The promotional organizations in general, they can do and do tremendous work like this conference, and key in developing things. Facilitate collaboration is one of the key things. But what they cannot do is create the experiences at your winery or at the wineries in the regions. That's what the wineries, the winemakers can do. So a couple of do's and don't, very short. Be authentic. You don't need to be flashy. You don't need to have a glossy tasting room. You must have a website. I would insist that you must have a website, but it doesn't have to be complex and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but you must have a website with telephone number and an email. And also what you should think about is this thing. Register a business on Google My Business, or Google My Business, and you see where you can register. Google Maps is becoming a really important tool for travelers finding places to go. So if you're not on Google Maps, make sure you are on Google Maps, and that you can easily do yourself. What you don't need lots of money. You don't need a tasting room. You don't need staff. I would say there is a danger with having dedicated staff to deal with the wine tours, because the danger is that you have people who are not really very much involved with the wine. It depends on your strategy. It depends on your budget. It depends on what you want to achieve with the visits. But for us, the best visits are usually the ones with the winemaker. It depends. You don't need online booking form. You don't need a prepackaged product. You don't need to make a brochure with 3 different kinds of standard wine tasting, premium wine tasting, and VIP wine tasting. You don't need any of that. You need authenticity and enthusiasm. Now, why do I say all this? Well, so let me ask you a question. What does the visitor remember 3 weeks later after having left your winery? Does he remember the wine? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. What he remembers, or she remembers, is the guy, the person that they met at the winery. So it's the person, which again, is exactly the same thing as Diana said previously. It's the person. Wine tourism is really about people. So to finalize this, there are 3 things you need to be a successful wine tourism destination. And 3 very simple things. You need to have enthusiasm and authenticity. You need to be you. You need to have good glasses, and you need to have clean toilets. That's the only things you need, actually. You can have a tasting room, which is a crappy wine cellar, or you can have a tasting in the vineyard. These days, you also need things like alcohol gel and things like that. Yeah, we all know about that. Now, why this? Well, because what you really want to do is achieve this. This is what counts. This is 5, 6 people who had visited a winery in Piedmont, and you want happy people at the end of the visit, very much like this. Thank you very much. That was that was a lot of things in a short time. I apologize for being a little bit rushed, maybe.
Hello?
Yep,
yes?
I'm here.
You hear Britt?
Britt is muted.
Unmute. Hi, so this was our presentation. Per has said it all.
Okay, thank you very much. You mute.
Oh, you mute. Okay.
It's really something which is very based on real life experience. What's really interesting is to discuss this with people, with the wineries, and with Olga, for instance, coming up here. And yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you so much. And thank you, Per. I have to address this, and I'm really proud of this. Thank you for keeping a slight gender balance in this event. I see great lady speakers, and I was hoping we are going to hear from both you and Britt. And you took the time, and thank you so much for sharing with us the knowledge and the experience. And there are a couple of things that were actually being asked by the audience on Facebook, and you have addressed it in your speech.
So if there's any other questions, please feel free.
We will also be free to forward you the questions if they come up later.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we are moving on. Nastavljamo dalje. Ja ću nastaviti na našem. Na kraju, zapravo pred kraj, jedna poslastica. Malim vinarima koji tek razmišljaju žele li se uopće upustiti u avanturu bavljenja turizmom. Ja bih vam sad htjela predstaviti Lucianov Olgu. Ona je turistički menadžer vinarije etc. u Moldavi. Ona će vam reći kako su oni proširili svoj posao na turizam i kako su od vinskog podruma narasli do jednog od najatraktivnijih vikend odredišta u svojoj zemlji. So Olga, please, tell us about your journey.
Hello to everybody. I'm really sorry, excuse me for being late.
We didn't even say to anybody that you were late, so you were quite on time.
Okay, thank you very much. I just joined the presentation of Per, and it was really useful. And I just can follow the steps we had at the start. And, so the information he said is really very good and nice, and we have it in our experience as well. So and we can say that we are really enthusiastic people, me and my husband, that we are this adventure. Really, it's my husband who started it in 2002, and with the plantation of the first vineyards. And after that, we were developing. In 2013, we started the touristic history of etc. And we built the restaurant and the tasting room. And then we built we started to work under the infrastructure. What is very important for the tourists to feel comfortable and to stay at the winery for a longer time and to enjoy their stay and coming back. So, and we built the hotel, the swimming pool, we made the landing strip, as you see in the photos and the video. And now we are making the new hotel for 10 rooms. And I think that, etc., we will continue to develop and the infrastructure, and we will continue to do our best. The pair was right telling that the people, the wine, it's not the first thing that people remember visiting the winery. And we feel it really now. And the one thing that I wanted to tell to the wineries to be what is important for success, it's to create the emotions while people are visiting the place. And it's right that the people remember, the tourists remember the people they meet at the winery. And if you have a possibility to welcome your guests by yourself, the winemaker, the owners, it's very important. And one more thing, to create emotions for tourists who are coming. We have it at the moment, likely. We have this landing strip and possibility to fly around the winery. I think there are no other wineries close to our winery that has such a possibility. And it was like a boom, really boom, and something new, something special for Moldova. Really, we started as only one family winery in Moldova, and it was also something new, small family winery where the owners meet the people, talk to them, sell them wines, explain about their philosophy and so on. So it's also was very important, and I think that it was the first step to success for us. Also, as an advice for the touristic development of any winery is to create something special at your winery. I don't know how it's. I mean, for example, we started to invite guests for wine and placintas, the special meal that we have in our region. And it was really successful. Then we started to develop the kitchen, the dishes that we prepare, and so on. Try to make your tastings special, to give people the possibility to taste the wines from the rigs, from the barrels. It also works very well. we also started our tastings like this, and everybody were talking about this, and it was really something special. Also, we create projects, and it also is a good promotion, because some big companies, they are coming to do their own wine. They produce 300 bottles of their own wine with their private label, and they gift it to the people from all over the world. They're working with, their friends with, and so on. It's a good part of the marketing. We try to involve people in the process of making wine as well, for them to be involved, to coming back and telling that they were involved in making this wine, and we create the fests. It's also was a good step for promotion. We invented a kind of the festival on our territory in September. We call it Harvest Time, and we invite people from all over the world to come to join. About 200, 300 people are coming for this fest for the whole day. They buy the tickets for this fest, and they eat, they drink wine, they gather the grapes all together, they are crushing it, they are dancing, eating, and it's a kind of nice impression about the winery, about the country, about all the atmosphere, and people remember it from one year to another, and even call us to find out when will be the next harvest day to come to join. Also, people are coming from all over the world, and it's the best also marketing and advertising for us. So this is, I think, all. You can see the photos from the fest that we are making, how people enjoy the place, and how they enjoy the atmosphere, and how they participate in all these actions with pleasure. So I just wanted to tell you the nice things that can make you sure that and make you enthusiastic to do nice things, to not to be afraid of making these actions, because it's create emotions for people, and it creates interest to your country, to your winery, to the wines that you do. So it's I really wanted to tell a lot, but I don't have, I think, a lot of time, and it was said a lot about these strategies that are very good to make. Of course, the participation at the big exhibitions, thanks to USAID help, and we had a possibility to participate at the ETB Berlin and World Market, Tourism Market Show in London. This is two more important exhibitions I would suggest to participate in with touristic agencies, local touristic agencies, or just separately. You may choose any way, but it helps a lot, really. And the work with the local agencies helps you to promote the winery, the things you are working. And it's very important to have a special approach to each agency you're working with. So just I would like to show to wish you a lot of passion, a lot of enthusiasm, and I believe that it will work well, as we are since 2002 till nowadays. We feel lucky, feel very good, developing our place. And we are not going to stop.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This was so inspirational, and there is so many things that we can take out from what you have said to us. Thank you for being here, and I really, really hope that I am going to be visiting you soon.
See you.
Most importantly, we are inviting you to come to visit Hercegovina, to meet your colleagues, the winemakers. Some of them you are going to meet now in the next panel. Ovim panelom ćemo završiti današnji webinar. Završavamo ga sa zajedničkim panelom na kojem ćemo komora, Vanjsko-trgovinska komora, mi iz USA turizma, zapravo ja, razgovarati sa Milicom Anđelić, koja je naša najuspješnija vinarka i velika je čast imati je na panelu danas. Ne treba puno trošiti riječi zapravo o Milici, osim što je jedna od rijetkih i vrlo uspješna vinarka. Ona je jako rano i prepoznala svoj turistički potencijal, tako da sad vinarija Anđelić ima i, Milica ispravit ćeš me ako griješim, ima i kušaonicu gdje se mogu probati njihova vina. A s nama je još i gospodin Andrija Vasilj, koji je vlasnik carskih vina, koja su zaista carska, vlasnik finskog hotela Cesarica i podruma u kojima smo kušali ta među najboljim vinima na svijetu hercegovačka vina, carska vina. Drago mi je da u ovom sastavu imamo ovaj panel gdje ćemo razgovarati šta su to sljedeći koraci u razvoju vinske ceste Hercegovine, šta je zapravo potrebno i šta je inspirativno bilo iz govora ovih naših govornika danas i kojim smjerom ćemo se mi uputiti u razvoju vinske rute u Hercegovini. Dobrodošli, ja ću vas zamoliti samo da me ispravite ako sam nešto pogriješila u predstavljanju i da kažete nešto malo o sebi, počevši sa vinarima, a onda ćemo se Ognjenka i ja predstaviti. Milica, molim.
Evo ja prije svega želim da kažem dobar dan svima i da se zahvalim svim učesnicima ovoga današnjeg webinara. Također želim da se zahvalim rukovodiocima USAID turizam projekta što su prepoznali potencijal vinske ceste i što su sve svoje resurse usmjerili na razvoj i promociji Hercegovine kao poželjne turističke destinacije.
Evo, je li na mene došao red?
Jeste.
Sve skupo vas pozdravljam i evo, strašno mi je drago da sam dio ovoga webinara. Prvo bi se želio zahvaliti Mirno i Ibrahimu, komplet USA timu, Vanjsko-trgovinskoj komori, gospodinu Vukoviću i Ognjenki, naravno. Ovo je projekat koji je turistička zajednica i neka udruga vinara prije nekad počela i oni su napravili taj jedan korak. Evo, ja sam sretan da smo mi tu i da će USAID sa Vanjsko-trgovinskom komorom uz pomoć vinara u vinsku cestu i da ćemo imati jednu dobru, jednu uspješnu vinsku cestu. Evo. Se čujemo? Halo?
Čujemo.
Evo, znači još jednom hvala vam svima od srca hvala koji želite pomoći vinarima da se ostvari ovaj projekat vinske ceste. Hvala vam, evo. Tu smo, šta god treba.
Hvala, sad bi trebala ja, jel da, Mirna? Pošto si ti naš host. Moje ime je Ognjenka Lalović, ja dolazim iz Vanjsko-trgovinske ili Spoljno-trgovinske komore. Sve ono što je predsjednik u uvodnom govoru pričao šta ćemo i želimo da radimo, to će spasti na ljude koji rade u mom sektoru i ja se nadam da ćemo mi zajedno sa USAID projektom to uspješno da iznesemo, pogotovo što su vinari, eto vi, upravo tražili da bude ova komora ta organizacija koja će ih koordinirati dalje.
Evo,
sad ti.
Meni je isto žao, ja moram reći da mi je žao jedne stvari, te da ovaj sastanak nije održan u jednoj od naših vinarija. Žao mi je što je ovako preko webinara, ali evo, ona je tu, šta je tu, hvala Bogu. jer vinari u BiH imaju stvarno dosta toga lijepog za ponuditi. Enogastro ponudu, tu je naša žilavka i blatina, tu su naša žilavka i blatina i trnjak, autohtone sorte koje možda nisu najbolje, sigurno su dobre, kvalitetne, nisu najbolje na svijetu, ali su naše i mi sa njima želimo priču Bosnu i Hercegovinu kao vinsku regiju. Mi imamo u Bosni i Hercegovini otprilike 3600 hektara vinograda, također uzgajamo i druge sorte, uz žilavku, blatinu i trnjak i vranac, imamo i druge internacionalne sorte. Tu se nalazi 25 vinarija na ovoj strani, na drugoj strani naše Hercegovine 15, je li tako Milice, 16?
21 udruženja.
21, jedna fantastična priča. Evo, stvarno sam ponosan sam dio te priče i ja sam se i vratio izvana, bio sam u Americi 11 godina, emocije su me povukle da se vratim tu i da ovdje stvaram obitelj, jer Hercegovina, Bosna i Hercegovina je uistinu predivna zemlja.
Ja ću ovdje ću se ubaciti i povući paralelu sa Andrijom. Ja sam se isto vratila od nekuda gdje sam živjela i gdje sam studirala kući u Hercegovinu, jer sam stvarno smatrala da postoji taj potencijal i nekako sam se usmjerila u tom smjeru. Izuzetna je čast raditi na ovome s vama, izuzetna je čast raditi na promociji vina, vinskog turizma u Hercegovini. Želja nam je da budemo zaista tamo gdje zaslužujemo biti, u društvu najuspješnijih vinskih regija u Europi, u svijetu. Nadamo se da ćemo kroz ovih nekoliko godina, koliko će se projekt zadržati tu, izgraditi uspješnu mrežu, uspješnu suradnju i uspješnu podlogu i sustav koji će omogućiti da se bez ikakve podrške dalje razvija vinska ruta. Našli smo izvrsnog partnera u Vanjsko-trgovinskoj komori za ovaj inicijalni početak u ovom sljedećem koraku razvoja vinske ceste. Napomenuli smo, još meni je drago da je Andrija s nama, koji je bio od samog početka uključen u razvoj koncepta vinske rute u Hercegovini od samih početaka u inicijaciji i nastavio raditi s nama, evo i surađivati s nama na ovom projektu u koraku dalje, prepoznajući i ono što je zaista bilo korisno u sastancima s vinarima je vidjeti da postoji zajedničko usmjerenje da se ova vinska cesta kreira i da bude jaki regionalni brend koji će se bazirati na kvaliteti hercegovačkih vina koja su već dokazana. To je nešto što smo postigli neovisno o turizmu. Kvalitet vina, nagrade koje su naša vina dobili zaista zaslužuju jednu ovakvu promociju. Dakle, u sljedećim koracima razvoja vinske rute cilj je kreirati sustav na kojem će se bazirati održivost razvoja vinske ceste. Ognjenka i ja smo razgovarali u nekoliko navrata oko toga, pokušavali biti kreativne, oslanjati se na dosada izrađene dokumente, oslanjati se na kriterije i standarde ITER Vitisa Ognjenka. Ti ćeš nam samo malo reći šta su neki sljedeći koraci, ovo u neposrednoj budućnosti koje ćemo poduzeti kako bismo uspostavili sustav upravljanja vinskom cestom.
Hoću, naravno. U jednoj rečenici jedan veliki entuzijastički rad nam slijedi. Ako bismo to mogli tako da sažmemo u jednu rečenicu. Naravno, moram da naglasim da prije svega sve ovo što smo jutros čuli, jako su dobre smjernice, jako su dobri savjeti. Ja bi se prije svega ovim putem zahvalila svima koji su nam davali danas uvod, ne jutros, izvinjavam se, danas uvod koji su nam davali, zato što je i nama s ove strane bilo dosta nepoznanica koje su nam poprilično riješene prezentacijama koje smo imali. Ono što mi želimo da postignemo u narednom periodu jeste da napravimo pravu mrežu. A tu mrežu možemo da napravimo samo ako dobro identifikujemo naredne korake. Mi smo se dogovorili, kao što Mirna reče u našim neposrednim razgovorima, da prvo radimo na tom uspostavljanju razvojnog programa, da vidimo šta nam je sve potrebno, što bi rekli one pros and cons da napravimo, da bismo ovo ustoličili, jer Spoljno-trgovinska komora nije institucija koja ide nešto da bi za 2-3 godine to nešto zaboravila. Znači, mi stvarno želimo da ovome damo tu održivost koja će nastaviti se i u narednim godinama, ne želeći time da uopšte umanjimo pokušaje koje su bili u prošlosti, znači to želim da naglasim, mi želimo da napravimo ovde simbiozu. Ja bih iskoristila ovu priliku, Mirna, naravno ako se i ti slažeš, zato što će nam trebati pomoć velika od svih vas koji ste uključeni i u vinski turizam, i u ponudu vinskih ruta, i u ponudu ostalih pratećih proizvoda koji ide, da ovim današnjim webinarom, koji je jedan početak priče o cijelom uspostavljanju vinske rute, kontaktirajte nas. Ni mi ne znamo sve, molim vas, sad imate sve adrese, mi želimo da čujemo što više razmišljanja, što više mišljenja kako bismo na kraju našli taj neki zajednički nazivnik. Biće nam potrebna pomoć svih vinara, na koju ja unaprijed računam, jer poznavajući u radu koji imamo zajedno sa njima, da su to stvarno entuzijasti i Milica i Andreja, ja znam koliko vi priča imate iza svog vina, koje ne stižete danas ispričati, a da želimo da uopšte napravimo to iskustvo jedno. Ono što je mene ostalo, recimo, kroz cijeli ovaj današnji webinar, kako ono ide, promocija prvo regiona. To smo mi počeli i nastupom na Düsseldorfu, na sajmu vina, to je da smo počeli da uvodimo taj termin region Hercegovina. I to će nam taman sa strane komore, ovo nama predstavlja održivost jednog našeg početka koji smo započeli prije 5 godina. Naravno, to će trebati još i brendirati. Jako je bitno da svi shvatimo u ovom lancu da niko nikome nije konkurent. To je ono što je meni ostalo ovde i ja se nadam i apelujem na sve ovde uključene da se držimo te jedne rečenice. Niko nikome nije konkurent, možemo samo doprinijeti u međusobnoj saradnji i hajde da taj entuzijazam iskoristimo.
Jako mi je drago, Ognjenka, da si to rekla. To je prvo što smo čuli na sastancima koje smo imali sa vinarima o nastavku razvoja vinske ceste. Ne smatraju se konkurencijom, smatraju se partnerima u tom razvoju. I evo, opet kažem, jako mi je drago što imam baš konkretno ovo dvoje ljudi s nama koji imaju, ja ću još samo napomenuti različit stupanj razvoja turističkih usluga, pa u tom kontekstu sam htjela samo s njima malo vidjeti. Imali smo niz govornika danas koji nam kažu kako treba kreirati turistički proizvod. Vi ste to prepoznali već nekad prije. Jedno i drugo ste razvijali svoje turističke kapacitete u određenom smislu prema mogućnostima i prema onom kako ste vidjeli da treba. Smatrate li se inspiriranim, jeste li dobili neke dodatne nove informacije od naših govornika? Da li vam se otvara nekakva nova slika šta bi to trebalo raditi da bi se taj turistički proizvod ponudio međunarodnom tržištu? Milice, hoćeš ti molim te?
Evo, može.
Ajde, Andrija.
Ajde, Andrija.
Evo, slušajući ove sve govornike i predavače danas, uistinu sam uživao u svemu i dosta sam naučio, ali evo moram istaknuti gospodina Pera, da ako sam pravilno izgovorio, u njegovom izlaganju je bila jedan dio gdje je kazao šta bi trebali vinari, kako bi se trebalo organizirati da rade bolji marketing regije. I mi smo prije 6 godina, nažalost lani nismo, prošle godine nismo zbog COVID-a, ali ove godine hoćemo zauzeti zadnji četvrtak ili u 8. mjesecu ili prvi četvrtak u 9. mjesecu će se opet desiti manifestacija Blaž 2021. I mi to mi je nekako potvrdilo da kad je gospodin to rekao, da smo mi na pravom putu, jer mi smo već napravili svoj festival koji je dosta uspješan i koji ima puno posjetitelja, što znači vinari su i istočna i zapadna, to je priča Bosne i Hercegovine, nije samo naša lokalna priča. Tako da dosta smo naučili danas kroz ova sva izlaganja. Evo, ja sam još jednom stvarno sretan da sam tu, evo, koristim ovu priliku da vas pozovem, ali bit ćete blagovremeno obavješteni koji je četvrtak, je li ovaj zadnji ili ovaj prvi. Da par riječi kažemo Blažu, znači Blaž je skraćenica za Blatina žilavka. I tu na tom festivalu sudjeluju svi proizvođači koji se bave proizvodnjom žilake i blatne. Naravno da mi njima dopuštamo da donesu sa sobom i druge sorte i druga vina. Jel? Zadnji put smo imali 26 vinara i napravili smo enogastro zabavni program i imali smo negdje otprilike 1500 gostiju. A ove godine isto imamo jedan dobar zabavni program, to ćemo još ostaviti da bude tajna, ali poenta Blaža, poenta sve priče, promocija Bosne i Hercegovine, promocija Hercegovine kao vinske regije. Samo se radi na tom. Znači mi sa Blažom promoviramo Hercegovinu kao vinsku regiju.
Hvala puno, Andrija. Milice, tvoj dojam današnjeg dana?
Ja sam danas mirna čula dosta toga novog, što mi je otvorilo, raširilo vidike čemu da težimo u budućnosti, ali dosta toga sam čula i tih nekih stvari sa kojima se mi već susrećemo i imamo probleme sa njima. Vi znate da ovo nije prvi projekat Vinske ceste i mislim da je prvo i osnovno o čemu trebamo da razmišljamo kako Vinska cesta da živi poslije kraja projekta, poslije odlaska donatora, ko time da rukovodi, odakle da bude finansirana. Znači to su sve neke stvari o kojima moramo unaprijed da razmišljamo, jer projekat, Mirna rekao ste, traje 5 godina, to će proći začas. Mnogo je toga, veliki je i širok spektar stvari koje moraju da se urade na Vinskoj cesti da bi ona zaživjela u onome pravom smislu i da bi se našla na svjetskoj mapi.
Hvala ti puno za to. To je jedan dobar isto uvod, rekla bih, za jedno pitanje koje smo imali od panelista. Oni nas pitaju koji su sljedeći koraci u strategiji razvoja Vinske ceste. Prva stvar na kojoj ćemo raditi, prva stvar na koju ćemo zaista provesti neko vrijeme i uključiti sve aktere razvoja Vinske ceste je uspostavljanje sustava razvoja. Za sada se tu komora nametnula svojim angažmanom, svojim prepoznavanjem potencijala ovog koraka u kojem smo sada. Ja moram naglasiti, zaista moram, Ognjenka i ja jako puno komuniciramo na ovu temu. Podrška u svemu tome je i njezin suradnik Darko Pehar, koji je izuzetno vrijedan, koji je uspio obići sve vinare, animirati, motivirati. Ja znam da je kroz Bosnu i Hercegovinu prolazi puno različitih projekata sa različitim namjenama, vrlo se teško prepoznati u tom kontekstu. On je zaista prepoznao i ulogu komore u tome i vrijednost vinara, vrijednost naših vina i potencijale regije Hercegovina. On i Ognjenka su velika podrška ovom razvoju. Meni je jako drago što vinari u tom kontekstu imaju vrlo snažnog partnera, jednu stabilnu i održivu organizaciju koja će zaista moći vući u jednom pravom, čvrstom i održivom smjeru. Ognjenka, je li se slažeš? To bi bio nekakav sljedeći korak. Uspostavljanje sustava i onda zaista kreiranje turističkih proizvoda koji će se naći na međunarodnim platformama za booking.
Naš prvi korak jeste taj sistem i struktura da uspostavimo. Baš, Milica, zbog tvoje bojazni koje si izrekla, jer i mi imali smo isto bojazni na samom početku kada smo pričali komora je učestvovala do sada u preko 60 projekata i uvijek smo birali one projekte kojima možemo dati doprinos u samoodrživosti. I ovaj projekat je bio taj projekat i nama je drago i hvala vam prvo što ste vi vinari izričito tražili na tim sastancima da komora bude ta organizacija. Mislim da smo vam to dokazali radom i mislim da ne bismo ni predsjednik, ni Darko, ni ja ušli u ovo da ne mislimo da možemo. Treba će nam vaša pomoć, znači nećemo da se lažemo ovdje otvoreno, znači treba će nam pomoć svih ovdje u lancu uključenih, da bismo to za početak stavili u jedan sistem i strukturu. Naravno, to neće biti zakovano odmah na početku, to će se vremenom širiti, ali od nečeg moramo početi. Također, Mirna je onako to stidljivo najavila, znači to neće biti lagan rad, znači imat ćemo mi tu 3-4 mjeseca dobrog rada kada ćemo tražiti od vas pomoći, kada ćemo i vas sazivati, tražiti vaše saznanja, da se uključite to kako bismo na kraju izašli sa tim jednim dokumentom koji će biti održiv i vrijedan. Naša uloga ovdje kao partnera USAID, dok je USAID ovdje, da sad razjasnimo, je koordinirajuća uloga. Znači, naša će biti da koordinišemo razvojni, zajedno sa USAID-om, ovaj razvojni plan, da umrežavamo ljude i da se i mi, što bi rekli, uhodavamo da jednom kad nema međunarodnog donatora, da to postane održivo za budućnost. Mi se tome nadamo, mi smo predani tome. Mirna je ovako rekla, ta dva čovjeka koje stoje iza ove ideje, naravno sa predsjednikom na čelu, ali Darko i ja smo odavde zagrizli od početka za ovu inicijativu, da tako kažemo, jer vidimo da je ta inicijativa dobra ne samo s aspekta vinara, znači nemojte me pogrešno shvatiti, ali komora ovdje okuplja još drugih asocijacija, i asocijaciju turizma i asocijaciju prehrambene industrije, koje će se sve trebati u određenom vremenu međusobno da povezuju, upravo da tu idemo tu umrežavanje i koordinirajuće aktivnost da bi ovaj projekat mogao uspjeti. Puno priča.
Imate li vas dvoje, proizvođači napitka, neka pitanja za nas? Jesmo li ostavili nešto neodgovoreno?
Za mene niste.
Super, hvala.
Ja se ispričavam Darki, ja sam Darku zaboravio spomenuti kao jednu ključnih karika, glavnih karika. Darko, ispričavam se, hvala ti za sve. Samo na prošlom sastanku kada smo imali ga u jednoj vinariji tu gore, ja mislim da je kod Andrije bilo, bila je preporuka da se razmišlja o jednoj vinskoj aplikaciji koju bi mi kreirali uz pomoć USAID-a i Vanjsko-trgovinske komore, koja bi sigurno doprinijela razvoju i stvaranju vinske ceste. Tako da eto, to pitanje bi valjalo otvoriti evo sad odmah i da nastavimo o tome razmišljati, jer to bi sigurno nešto bilo što bi olakšalo posao u budućnosti vinske ceste.
Da. Hvala lijepo Andrija na napomeni. Da, zaista, na tom sastanku smo razgovarali u tom smjeru, razgovarali smo i u smjeru podrške projektu, kreiranju iskustava sa vinske ceste, podrška festivalima koji se organiziraju na vinskoj cesti. To je nešto što će se zaista raditi. Mi smo već prepoznali nekoliko događaja koji su izuzetno značajni za vinare u Hercegovini na kojima ćemo raditi, koje ćemo podržati. Isto tako nekakav izlazak u digitalnu sferu je zaista interesantan i to će biti stvarno smjer razvoja. Ja moram postaviti, imamo pitanje, zamislite, od paneliste. Ovo pitanje je za Ognjenku, jer nam Milica i Andrija mogu dati svoj zbroj, ali Ognjenka nam možda može dati konkretnu cifru. Gospođa Brit Carlsen pita koliko u ovom trenutku ukupno Hercegovina proizvodi, odnosno koliko izvozi vina.
ne mogu joj reći koliko Hercegovina izvozi.
Bosna i Hercegovina.
Taj podatak ne mogu reći. Nisu to velike cifre, znači odmah da budemo jasni, znači to se uglavnom kreće od 7 do 10 miliona zavisni KM-ova, zavisnosti koja godina je u pitanju. Nisu velike cifre, s tim što je bio primjetan jedan veliki uzlet izvoza vina prije pandemije. A to nam je doprinijelo diversifikaciji tržišta. Obično su naši vinari bili oslonjeni na regionalne zemlje, međutim počeli su sad malo više i da izvoze u egzotičnije zemlje, da tako nazovemo, i mi smo vrlo ponosni na ove njihove prve korake u te egzotičnije zemlje. Pandemija nam je zaustavila taj rast, moramo da priznamo, kao i sve ostalo, tako da se nadamo da će za 1-2-3 godine da se mi možemo vratiti na ono gdje smo nekada bili, sad čak sa većom stopom rasta, pogotovo uz ovu Vinsku cestu.
Hvala ti lijepo, Ognjenka. Ja sam spremna zaključiti ovaj današnji dan sa nekakvim pozdravnim riječima i jako mi je drago da smo mi taj zadnji panel, da su dvoje vinara s nama, da je sa nama komora na kojoj će se temeljiti ovaj razvoj i zaista želim s vama završiti ovaj dan i s vašim zaključcima, jer ste vi ti na kojima ćemo mi temeljiti sav naš rad u buduće. Molim vas lijepo, jedno po jedno. Pozdravite i zaključite ovaj dan.
Volite, Milice, ne mora ja biti prvi.
Ti si nam jedini, Andrija, ovdje. Tako
a ništa, evo mogu ja, nije problem. Evo, svim učesnicima bi se želio zahvaliti i svim ljudima koji su na bilo kakav način doprinijeli da se ovaj webinar desi. Također svima koji su se uključili da se ova Vinska cesta Bosne i Hercegovine osposobi i da ona bude uspješna. Svima hvala, svim sudionicima i stvarno sam evo u ime i svoje osobno ime i ime naše vinarije, stvarno sam ponosan da sam dio ove priče i evo, daćemo sve od sebe da ovo bude sve dobro. Pozdrav svima i živjeli. Žao mi je što ne možemo nazdraviti uz jednu vinu da se pozdravimo.
Evo i ja bi se također zahvalila uopšte, kao što sam i na početku rekla, što se uopšte u ovom smjeru razmišlja na koji način Hercegovina da stane na tu svjetsku mapu. Mislim da je Vinska cesta korak broj 1. U Vinskoj cesti će biti mnogo tih koraka koje ćemo morati zajedno da pređemo, ali ovo danas iskustvo je bilo inspirativno, dalo nam je dosta materijala o čemu da razmišljamo u budućnosti, u kome smjeru da djelujemo, tako bi se također zahvalila svima koji su bili dio ovoga webinara.
Puno, Ognjenka.
Ja se moram našaliti. Znači, Andrija je govorio da ima festival Blaž. A ne znam kako će ovo prevodioci sad prevesti. On je danas bio blažen među ženama. Na ovome panelu.
A festival Blaž je od svih vinara, nije samo Andrijin, tako da...
Ne, ti si spominjao, zato govorim, ti si spominjao, danas je bio blažen među ženama.
Dobro, smislimo. Hvala. Jesam, drago mi je, baš sam ponosan što sam bio ovdje danas s vama.
Hvala vam puno svima. Hvala vam puno svima. Ja ću se isto tako kao i vi zahvaliti današnjim govornicima koji nastavljaju ovu našu priču od jedne određene točke do koje smo došli prije nekoliko godina. Dakle, mijenjamo pomalo koncept vinske rute, prilagođavamo se modernim trendovima, idemo u susret nekakvom svijetu, Europi, modernoj turističkoj ponudi u koju nas je i ovaj COVID jako snažno gurnuo. U tome, da ne bude sve zlo, tražimo i svoju priliku, tražimo priliku u novim preferencijama novih putnika i tražimo priliku da od Hercegovine zaista napravimo jednu vrlo uzbudljivu destinaciju i na tome ćemo vrijedno raditi. Ja neću parafrazirati neke američke predsjednike koji su obećavali krv, znoj, suze, ne znam šta, ali obećavam zaista puno rada, ali i dobar rezultat koji će nas dovesti do toga da se Hercegovina pojavi na međunarodnim tržištima i da bude stvarno jedna od najljepših vinskih destinacija na svijetu. Hvala svima. Vidimo se.
Hvala.
Hvala.